It's the week of December 13th, and this is COVID Conversations, where we discuss the latest COVID-19 news with the experts. The first vaccines are being delivered and administered across the United States this week. This vaccine has been developed in record time. So I'm here with Jessica Ansel, nurse practitioner and clinical research coordinator at the Center for Virology and Vaccine Research at Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, to talk a little bit more about these vaccines. Jess, welcome. Today's question is, how do we know these vaccines are safe?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's one that I see in my social media feed from most of my friends and my personal family. I think the big thing is that clinical trials for sure prove that a vaccine is safe before we give it to the general public. So before a trial even takes place in humans, we actually study it in the lab. So it's studied in animal models, in little petri dishes. And then if all of that data looks good, they take that data and they submit it to the FDA and they're like, hey, we have this safety data, it looks good. Can we open a human trial? And the big thing too to note is we don't just do one human trial. There's actually several human trials for each vaccine. So the first trial is a phase 1 trial. And this is a super small trial, usually 25 to 50 study participants. And the main purpose of a phase 1 trial is to make sure that a vaccine is safe. And so the doctors, the nurses, the scientists, they'll look at the study participants and they'll ask them what side effects they're experiencing, and they'll make sure that there's no major events. If a phase 1 study looks safe, then the scientists take all of that data to the FDA again. And they say, hey, we have more data. It looks good. Can we open a phase 2 study? And if the FDA says yes, we open a phase 2. So a phase 2 is super similar to a phase 1 trial. We're looking at safety, but in a larger group of people, so a few hundred people. And a phase 3 is probably what the public is most familiar with right now. These are these large studies with thousands and thousands of people that are currently ongoing for the COVID-19 vaccines. So a phase 3 looks to make sure a vaccine is safe, but also looks to make sure that a vaccine works. So for COVID-19, we're looking to see that the vaccine can prevent someone from getting COVID-19 infection, or if they get COVID-19, does the vaccine make the symptoms much less severe than they would have been if somebody was not vaccinated? If in a phase 3 study, we show that the vaccine is safe and it works, we go back to the FDA again. We say, hey, look, this vaccine is safe, it works, can we license it? And that's where we're getting these emergency approvals from that are currently happening. But I think what's also important to note is that these trials don't just end when we get emergency approval. Most vaccine trials actually last for 2 years. So even while people are getting emergency use approval and vaccines are being licensed, we're still studying them in our study participants and ensuring safety.
How did this get done so quickly?
That's also a really great question, and something I'm seeing a lot on my newsfeed as well. The short-term answer to that is that we got rid of all the regulatory hurdles and the money that it takes to make a vaccine. So for background context, if somebody wants to make a vaccine, the first thing they need to do is get the money. So this means applying for grants, asking the government for money. All of these things take a lot of paperwork and a lot of time. Once we secure the money, then the biotech company that wants to make this vaccine needs to find hospitals and clinics that are willing to run the trials for them. So again, they have to set up contracts. There's lots of paperwork. We have to make sure we have enough money to run the trial. Sometimes we need more money. And all of this causes delays. This can take 1 to 2 years to even get all of this set up before we can even start the trial. So for the COVID-19 vaccines, we eliminated all of this. So Operation Warp Speed was developed by the federal government, and Operation Warp Speed provided the money for all of these trials. And they also provided standardized contracts and paperwork that went to all the biotech companies, all the hospitals involved. So they eliminated a lot of the back and forth. And essentially, most of these trials were able to start right away.
Excellent. So things that people really need to remember are, it's not that you make the vaccine and it's ready to go. It has to go through the clinical trials. There's 3 phases. And generally, these can take a long time. Plus, they're not going to end at this current moment. They're going to continue. And money is a huge factor, as well as sort of pushing through past all that red tape to make sure that we're getting this out safely and effectively and efficiently to the general public. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Awesome. Jess, thank you so much. This is COVID Conversations, where we discuss the COVID-19 news with the experts. I really appreciate you taking time to speak with me today.
Thanks for having me.